All right, and to get a better understanding of consumer demand patterns in Indonesia, we are joined by Tengku Rifky, macroeconomist from Institute for Economic and Social Research, a Faculty of Economic and Business at Universitas Indonesia. Hi, Rifky, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Hello, Krishna. Nice to be back here.
All right. Now, looking at the latest data that I just read just now, consumer confidence index increasing, also the contribution to GDP still, number one in 2022. Is it safe to say that consumer spending in Indonesia has fully recovered and is no longer affected by any impacts of the pandemic?
I should say so. If we're looking at the data, like it's just been mentioned that we've had the highest growth rate of consumer spending since 2013. One, it's because of the low base effect from the 2021 COVID impacted economic growth. But it is also that we have experiencing many positive factors throughout 2022. One, it's because of the less impact on the COVID. Second, it's because of the windfall profit from the commodities. And third is because the higher expectation by the consumer. Because when we see the pattern during COVID era, some of the spending was held back by the expectation, especially from upper middle level of consumer. And we didn't have that during 2022. So it's actually safe to say that we are on the normal trend of growth, and it's also safe to say that the impact of COVID is nowhere to be seen these days.
Right, but of course, as we know, subsidized fuel prices were raised by up to 30% last year amid a surge in global oil prices. This also includes the increase in Pertamax prices. Pertamax is the most widely used type of fuel in Indonesia. So how did Indonesians manage to sustain their consumer spending even amid this higher fuel prices, Tengku?
Okay, I think there is two parts to that phenomenon. First is that, as you mentioned just now, that there is a significant rise in the fuel price during the last quarter of 2022. But it's also noteworthy that it should have been implemented sooner, and the government didn't do that. Because during the second and the third quarter of last year, we were actually seeing rising momentum of consumer spending. Had the government started the fuel price hike sooner, it might not been resulted in the high consumption level that we are seeing now. So the decision by the government to actually delay the price hike of fuel had positive impact on the consumer spending. Because on the last quarter of last year, we have seen quite a high growth rate of consumer spending, and then that was the perfect momentum for the government to actually hike the price. Otherwise, we could see the example by other countries that not having a subsidy on the fuel price, and it hit their consumption level quite severely. So I think it's a combination of good policy and good luck as well that we could manage to have a level of consumption growth rate in 2022.
Okay, and if we look at maybe the different parts and different sectors of spending, which one did you see having the highest growth in 2022?
I think one or several sectors that benefited the most last year is transportation and storage and other leisure activity. Because we've seen that in 2022, the growth of transportation and storage and all kind of transport actually hit double-digit growth because it has been severely impacted during COVID era. Also on the tourism sector, now we are seeing some of the most visited tourist sites like Bali and Lombok have been very packed these days. So it's a really good sign. And they are the most negatively impacted during COVID, and they bounced back really, really high during last year. So I think those are the sectors that experienced the most positive impact during last year.
Right, and of course, tourism is related to the relaxations of pandemic restrictions. Of course, towards the end of the year, the Indonesian government lifted those pandemic restrictions essentially. But aside from the pandemic restrictions, what other factors had contributed to the strong consumer spending last year? Because as you mentioned, Indonesians were quite resilient even in the face of higher fuel prices.
I think the way that government could actually convince both from consumer side and the production side, it means that consumer and producer that they manage it under control. Because when we have been enjoying the growth of 5% and quite manageable level of inflation, we are also seeing a contracted growth rate in everywhere else worldwide, and we have seen double-digit inflation in other parts of the world. So it kind of demonstrates that we are actually in a very much better shape, and it gives confidence for the consumer and producer to actually spend their money to consume and to invest further in their production capacity. So I think that's what makes our economic wheel been in motion quite consistently since last year.